Hello everyone, in this opportunity we're gonna be talking about action research.
Hello, this is Guido. I'm going to talk about action research. The definition is normally associated with hands-on, small-scale research projects, and its origin can be traced back to the works of social scientists in the late 1940s on both sides of Atlantic who advocated closer ties between social theory and the solving of immediate social problems. Action research has been used in a variety of settings within the social sciences, but its growing popularity as a research approach perhaps owes most to its use in areas such as education, organizational development, health and social care. Action research was also seen as research especially geared to changing matters, and this too has remained a core feature of nation of action research. The thinking here is that the research should not only be used to gain a better understanding of the problem which arises in every practice, actually set out to alter things to do so as part and parcel of the research process rather than tacked on as afterthoughts which follow the conclusion of the research. Action research is clearly a strategy for social research rather than a specific method. It is concerned with the aims of research and the design of research, but does not specify any constraints when it comes to the meaning for data collection that might be adapted by the action research. Action research can use different techniques for data collection. Action researchers with a background in psychology tend to prefer questionnaires for social purpose, while action researchers with a background applied anthropology, psychoanalysis, and social technical systems tend to prefer direct observation or in-depth interviews. Action researchers with any of these backgrounds may also retrieve data from the records, memos and reports that the client system routinely produces. There are four characteristics of action research: practical nature, change, cyclical process, and participation. Practical nature is made at the link with real-world problems and issues typically at work and in organizational settings. Change, both as a way to link with practical problems and as a means of discovering more about phenomena. Change is regarded as an integral part of research. Cyclical process. Research involves a feedback loop in which initial findings generate possibilities for change which are then implemented and evaluated as a prelude to further investigation. Participation. Practitioners are the crucial people in the research process. Their participation is active, not passive. I'm going to talk about the practical nature of action research. It's essentially practical and applied. It is driven by the need to solve practical real-world problems. Being practical will not be enough to set it apart from other approaches to research. After all, many approaches can lay claim to this theory. Many can claim with the justification to offer applied research, but it certainly does embrace this aim. Being practical has a second sense as far as action research is concerned, and it is this which helps to give it a unique identity as a research strategy. The research needs to be undertaken as a part of practice rather than a bolt-on addition to it. Clearly, if the processes of research and action are integrated, action research must involve the practitioner very closely. This provides a further meaning which can be added to the practical nature of action research. However, it may be linked with the notion of practitioner research. It is important to appreciate that action research is not exactly the same thing as practitioner research. Edward and Talbot says practitioner research can only be designated action research if it is carried out by professionals who are engaged in researching aspects of their own practice as they engage in the practice. It is not enough for the research to be undertaken as part of the job, because this could include all kinds of data gathering and analysis to do with remote people and systems, the findings from which might have no bearing on the practitioner's own activity. To occur with the spirit of action research, the researcher needs to investigate his or her own practice with a view to altering this in a beneficial way.
Alan Bryman was a professor of organizational and social research. In his book, he said that action research is wedded to the idea that change is good. Initially, this is because studying change is seen as a useful way of learning more about the way a thing works. It is important to say that action research only focuses in small scale experiments, not in large scale experiments. It only focuses on things that are located in a small scale. One of the things of action research that are really common, and that, of course, as I said before, is focused on a small scale or a small group, is the professional self development. This implicates that a person is going to improve the part in which she or he wants to be better at. So in this way, they're going to be improving themselves every day. So this is a continual quest for ways in which change is practiced for the better. In order to qualify or to call something as action research, it needs to simply be a systematic process. It needs to be something that is continual and that follows a certain order. The crucial points about the cycle of inquiry in action research are that the research fits back directly into practice and that the process is ongoing. The participatory nature of action research is probably its most distinctive feature, since in some ways it goes straight to the heart of conventions associated with formal social research. Conventionally, research is the province of the expert, the outside authority, who is a professional. This researcher more often than not initiates the process of research, sets the agenda, and designs the collection and analysis of data. After the research is concluded, those involved might receive some feedback in the form of results from the research. They may or may not instigate changes on the basis of such findings.
Issues connected with the use of action research. Ownership of the research. The participatory nature of action research brings with it a question mark concerning who owns the research outcomes. With conventional approaches to research tends to be less complicated to offer something of a caricature. The outsider research initiates the process and approaches practitioners to gain their permission for the research to be conducted. Ethical issues associated with action research. Distinct ethical problem for action research is that it is almost inevitable that the activity of colleges will also come under the microscope at some stage as their
activity interlinks with that of the practitioner who instigates the research. The idea that the action research is exempt from the need to gain authorization, as a consequence, evaporates, because the activity of action research almost inevitably affects others. It is important to have a clear idea of when and where the action research necessarily steps associate outside the bounds collecting information which is purely personal and relating to the practitioner alone. Reflexivity in action research. Practitioners who engage in action research have a privileged insight into the way things operate in their particular work site. They have insider knowledge. This can be an ingenious bonus for research, but it can also have problems. The outsider might be placed to see the kind of thing which to the insider is too obvious, because the practitioner cannot escape the wave of meaning that the insider knows. He or she is constrained by the web of meanings. Resources and action research. The action research investigation is necessarily fairly localized and relatively small scale. The action researcher focus the difficulty of trying to combine a probably demanding workload with systematic and rigorous research. Generalizability in action research. Given the constraint on the scope of action research projects, it may argue that their findings will rarely contribute the broader insights. The setting and constituent features are given rather than factors which can be controlled and varied, and the research is generally focused on the site rather than the spread across a range of samples. Action research, therefore, is vulnerable to the criticism that the findings relate to one instance and should not be generalized beyond this specific case.
Good afternoon, my name is Luis Enrique. I'm going to talk about advantage and disadvantage. There are 4 advantages. The first is participation, the second is professional development, practical and continuous. Participation is involved participation in the research for practitioners. This can democratize the research process, depending on the partnership, and generally involves a greater appreciation of and respect for practitioner knowledge. Professional development. It has professional benefit for the practitioner as it contributes to professional self-development. Practical. It addresses practical problems, is a positive way finding the result of research directly back into practice. And continues, it has benefit for the organization to the extent that it is greater to improving practice and resolving problems. There are 5 disadvantages: scope and skill, control, ownership, workload, impartiality. Scope and skill. The necessity involved of the practitioner limit the scope and skill of research. The work site approach affects the representativeness of the finding and the extent to which generalization can be made on the basis of the result. Control. The integration of research with practice limited the feasibility of exercising control over factors of relevance to the research. Ownership. Ownership of the research process becomes contestable within the framework of the partnership relationship between practitioner and researcher. Workload. Action research tends to involve an extra burden for the practitioner, particularly at the early stage before any benefit feeds back into improved effectiveness. Impartially. The action research is unlikely to be detached and impartial in his or her approach to the research. In this respect, action research stands in a marked contrast to positivist approach. It is clearly related to resolving problems with confront people in their routine, everyday activities, and these people therefore have a base interest in the finding. They cannot be entirely detached or impartial in accord with the classic imagined essence.